High school grads like you have no business here. Go home and send someone more competent. The new employee, who had just gone to a meeting with a client, came back surprisingly quickly. Considering the round-trip travel time, she couldn't have been there for even 10 minutes. On top of that, her hair was soaking wet. Apparently, the client had thrown tea at her and kicked her out. Seeing her like that made me furious, and I immediately picked up the phone and made a statement. The $65 million contract is off the table. The client panicked and rushed over to our company to apologize. He had no idea an even greater hell was waiting for him. My name is Kenneth, and I'm 32 years old. I'm 5 feet 10 inches tall, weigh 176 pounds, and my body fat is at 11%. People often say I have a build like a judo athlete, and they're right. I've been doing judo since I was a kid. Thanks to judo, I also met my lifelong friend Robert. Robert and I trained at the same judo team starting in elementary school. We were aware of each other as rivals, but we weren't exactly friends at the time. We went to the same elementary school, but we were in different classes. It wasn't until 7th grade that we ended up in the same class. Because we were already familiar from the dojo, we naturally started talking at school, and over time, we became close friends. Even though we were rivals at the judo team, we never once fought. I think it's because we respected each other's abilities. Our grades at school were also about the same. Not outstanding, but definitely above average. While I was better at math and science, Robert excelled in the humanities, which actually worked out well for both of us. Before exams, we would help each other with the subjects we were good at. There was one time in 7th grade when Robert really surprised me. Although I don't think Robert intended to surprise me at all. That day, since final exams were coming up, we decided to study at Robert's house. We usually studied at my place, but that day my older brother, who's 3 years older, was having friends over, so I got kicked out. Robert lived in public housing, and his father worked at City Hall. As soon as I stepped into his room, it happened. "Come meet my sister," he said. With that, Robert walked out of the room, leaving me behind. Your sister? I had never even known Robert had a sister. If she was a sister, maybe she was in the upper grades of elementary school? Why would he go out of his way to introduce her to me? By 7th grade, a few classmates already had girlfriends. Could she be a potential girlfriend? No, that wouldn't make sense. She's just a grade schooler. Unless she's just 1 year younger and in 6th grade? Wild thoughts swirled in my head, and I found myself pacing around the room. Kenneth, this is my sister Natalie. In Robert's arms was a newborn baby. She's adorable. The words slipped out of my mouth. All my random thoughts vanished in an instant. Natalie was so cute it blew everything else away. Want to hold her? He asked. But I was too nervous and couldn't bring myself to do it. Still, it was clear how much Robert loved his little sister. From then on, every time I visited, Robert would let me see Natalie. So in a way, I've been watching Natalie grow up right alongside Robert. I remember feeling truly happy, almost like I had gained a little sister myself, being someone who only had an older brother. Robert and I went on to attend the same high school. Natalie was about a year and a half old then. She was toddling around and starting to talk in broken sentences, and she just kept getting cuter. Robert constantly worried about her and took great care of her. His mother, having given birth at an older age, often struggled with her health after Natalie was born. Robert frequently took care of things like picking Natalie up from daycare and doing household chores. I wanted to support Robert however I could. That mostly meant looking after Natalie while Robert handled chores. Even so, Natalie grew attached to me. She used to call Robert Robbie and me Kenny. Those were peaceful, gentle days for us. But then, in our senior year of high school, tragedy struck Robert's family. His father fell seriously ill. It was a rare disease with no known cure, and after about 6 months in the hospital, his father passed away. Robert was ready to give up on college and start working, but his mother strongly objected. She said we should honor my father's wishes, Robert told me. His father had taken out an education insurance policy while he was still alive. Most of the premiums had already been paid, so they would receive the full payout. Mom's recently been able to start working again, and we also have Dad's retirement payout. I thought maybe I could manage by working part-time too, but am I being too naive? Robert asked me that, and I responded immediately. You're not being naive. You can do this, and I'll help you however I can. We had always aimed for the same university. Different majors, but we could still take general education classes together. Even if Robert had to miss a class, I could cover for him and help him catch up. If you ever get too busy, I'll look after Natalie for you, I offered. Tears welled up slightly in Robert's eyes, but then he smiled and said, You just want to see Natalie because she's cute, don't you? I won't deny that. We laughed together, and the following spring, we were both accepted to the same university. In the spring of our junior year, Natalie started elementary school. With her light blue backpack on, she looked absolutely adorable. I attended the entrance ceremony with Robert, and it was a deeply moving experience. That summer, the three of us went to an amusement park, swam at the beach, and even visited an aquarium to see a dolphin show. We also got roped into watching an animated movie. Robert often said, I want Natalie to have the same kind of experiences her classmates do. Just because she doesn't have a father doesn't mean she should be stuck at home during summer vacation. He took on more part-time work to make that happen, but he said it never felt like a burden when it was for Natalie. I completely understood how he felt. Whenever we went out together, if Natalie asked me for something, I couldn't say no. I'd end up buying her toys or sweets. Don't spoil her too much, Robert would say, scolding me from time to time. But he was just as powerless against Natalie's smile as I was. Just like that, the 4 years we spent together in college flew by in an instant. From elementary school through college, Robert and I had always been at the same schools, but it was finally time to go our separate ways. Robert joined the hotel industry, while I got a job at a company called Heritage Cross, which dealt in wallpapers, curtains, and flooring materials. About 6 months after we started working, I got a call from Robert's phone. When I answered, I heard Natalie's voice. Kenny, help me. In those 6 months since we had started working, we hadn't seen each other even once. Robert was swamped on weekends because of the hotel industry, and I couldn't take weekdays off because I worked a standard corporate job. Although we kept in touch over the phone, we never managed to see each other face to face. Still, I attended Natalie's open house at school in Robert's place since he couldn't take weekends off, and when I apologized for not being able to help more, Robert said to me, Natalie's already in 4th grade. She's been helping out a lot around the house lately. Don't worry about it. Then came that sudden call. I felt my heart start to race with a terrible sense of foreboding. When I asked what had happened, Natalie cried as she told me, Robbie collapsed. He's in the hospital now. She explained that Robert had been feeling sick for some time. He kept pushing himself to work, but today, he finally collapsed at work and was taken to the hospital. Got it. I'll be right there. I explained the situation to my boss and took a half-day off, heading straight to the hospital where Robert had been admitted. Robert lay on the hospital bed, smiling faintly. You left work in the middle of the day for this? Sorry, man. His cheeks were sunken, and his arm, when he reached out to shake hands, was shockingly thin. Robert had always been on the solid side, not as built as I was, but still sturdy. Now, he was visibly emaciated. I regretted not seeing him once during the past 6 months. If I had, maybe I could have noticed something was wrong. If you weren't feeling well, why didn't you tell me? Robert gave a weak smile. Then he asked Natalie to go buy us both something to drink. When we were alone in the room, he said, My dad's illness. Turns out it's hereditary. The words hit me like a hammer to the head. Robert's father had died from a rare disease one that still had no known cure. He passed away about 6 months after being hospitalized. This really sucks. I just got a job. I thought I could finally make things easier for Mom and Natalie. His expression was a mix of frustration and resignation. Don't give up. I couldn't help but shout. It's been almost 10 years since your dad passed. Medical science moves fast, right? Maybe they've found a treatment by now. But Robert slowly shook his head. There weren't many documented cases of his condition, he explained. That meant research was limited, and there were few specialists. Still, he said, there was one piece of good news. Since it's hereditary, we had Natalie tested too. She's fine. She won't get the disease. I see. But I couldn't bring myself to say, that's great. I was happy Natalie would be okay. But, Robert, the thought made it hard to feel genuinely glad. From the next day on, I visited Robert in the hospital every single day. You've got work too, Kenneth. You don't have to come every day, he said. I do. I need to walk Natalie home, don't I? Natalie came to the hospital every day after school as well. We'd stay until the very end of visiting hours, and then I'd walk Natalie home. That became our daily routine. Robert grew thinner with each passing day. Even so, I never gave up hope. I kept believing that maybe, just maybe, some groundbreaking treatment would be discovered while Robert was still alive. I wanted to believe in a miracle. But the miracle never came. Just before he drew his final breath, Robert held my hand and said, Kenneth, I hate to ask something like this, but there's no one else. Please take care of Natalie and my mom for me. I already knew that Robert's family had no relatives they could rely on. But even if they had, my answer wouldn't have changed. You don't even have to ask. Robert, your family is my family. Natalie is my sister, and your mom is my mom. Of course I'll take care of them. At that, Robert managed a weak smile through his labored breathing. Thank you, Kenneth. And then, Robert passed on. Mom, I'm sorry for being such a bad son, Natalie. Be happy. Those were his last words. From then on, I started going to Robert's house on my days off to check in on Natalie and his mother. The shock of losing her son had taken a toll on her health again, and I found myself supporting them financially as well. Robert's mom hesitated to rely on me since I wasn't even a relative, but I told her, I promised Robert. I said I'd take his place. I may not be enough, but please count on me like you would him. Natalie cried constantly for a while after losing Robert, but little by little, she started to recover. By the time 6 months had passed, she was smiling again. To support their lives, I threw myself into work. When I explained the situation, my president, Mr. Morris, transferred me to the sales department. In sales, the harder you work, the more you can earn. I gave it everything I had, and by the time Natalie entered high school, I was promoted to sales supervisor. Congratulations, Kenny. Natalie and her mom celebrated the promotion with me. Natalie had joined the tennis club, and with her sun-kissed skin, she looked vibrant and full of life. I made all the food today, she said proudly. Yeah, everything's great. This sushi in particular is amazing. Natalie giggled with delight. It was such a joyful evening, but the moment her phone buzzed with a notification, her expression clouded over. Natalie fiddled with her phone reluctantly, and the way she did made me seriously concerned. When she sighed while staring at the screen, I finally had to ask, Is something bothering you? You can tell me anything. I promised Robert I'd protect you. Kenny. On the verge of tears, Natalie explained the situation to me. In her high school's tennis club, besides the faculty advisor, Mr. Foster, there was also an outside coach named Stephen. Stephen was a graduate of Natalie's high school and was currently a senior in college. So he's about 22? I think he's 23. He took a year off before entering college. Stephen had apparently been pressuring Natalie to go out with him. Given how cute Natalie is, it wasn't surprising that someone might fall for her, but his behavior had been aggressive and inappropriate. Even during practice, he sticks with me the whole time. I've told him to pay attention to the others too, but he won't listen. She also said he had asked to meet her alone, and when she refused, he waited for me at the school gate after practice and tried to force me into his car. What? That's a crime. Luckily, her friends noticed and made a scene, so he panicked and fled. I clearly told Stephen that I had no intention of going out with him, but Stephen wouldn't back down. He continued to hover over Natalie during practice. He stopped waiting at the gate, but he still called and messaged constantly, and had even approached her unexpectedly on her way home. Concerned, her mother spoke with Mr. Foster, and since there had been complaints from other students too, Stephen was dismissed as an outside coach. Natalie felt relieved, but Stephen didn't stop. He still calls my phone all the time, and I've been approached on my way home more than once. Sometimes I feel scared just going to school. I'm wondering if maybe I should quit the tennis club. Seeing the anxious look on Natalie's face, I felt a surge of anger toward that guy Stephen. For now, we're getting you a new phone. Only share the new number with people you really trust. But there's no reason for you to quit the tennis club. You didn't do anything wrong, so you shouldn't have to give up something you love. But Natalie still looked uneasy, so I gave her a confident grin. It's okay. Leave the rest to me. I asked Natalie which university and department Stephen was attending, and that same day, I headed over there. Fortunately, I found him right away. Most seniors don't show up to campus very often, but Stephen was loudly hanging out with some friends in the cafeteria. When I called out to him, he looked up at me, startled, but quickly tried to compose himself. Who are you? I'm Natalie's brother. I heard her brother passed away from an illness. For a second, fear flashed across Stephen's face. What did he think a ghost had shown up? It was almost laughable. While we were talking, the friends Stephen had been hanging out with quietly slipped away. They probably didn't want to get caught up in trouble. Which told me everything I needed to know. Stephen didn't have any real friends. A true friend wouldn't abandon you when things get messy. There's no rule that says someone can only have one brother. I'm her brother too. Stephen nodded nervously, his head bobbing repeatedly. He was about the same height as me, but he had a scrawny build and didn't look strong at all. I had trained in judo all the way through college and still kept up with my strength training, so I still had the build of a judo athlete. If I wanted to, I could throw someone like him in a second. Of course, I wasn't about to get violent with a civilian, but it didn't hurt to apply a little pressure. Natalie is deeply bothered by your behavior. She's never going to date you, not in a million years. So stop hanging around her. I glared at him, and Stephen started trembling so hard he couldn't even speak. Well, what's your answer? Stephen nodded quickly, again and again. You mean it? If you come near her again, I won't go easy on you. I won't, I swear. I'll never have anything to do with Natalie ever again. He let out something like a scream and tried to run away, but his legs were shaking so badly that he stumbled, crashing loudly to the floor. Everyone in the cafeteria turned to look. You okay? Here. I offered my hand, but Stephen backed away from me in panic, letting out another squeal. The scene was so ridiculous that people around us started laughing. His face beat red with shame. Stephen scrambled to his feet and rushed out of the cafeteria, drowning in laughter. After that day, Stephen never tried to contact Natalie again, and she was finally able to go to school without fear. She told me how glad she was that she didn't have to quit the tennis club. I was happy too, knowing I'd been able to protect her the way Robert would have. Natalie was now a senior in high school. So, have you decided on a college? I asked. Without hesitation, Natalie replied, I'm not going to college. I plan to start working after I graduate. Both her mother and I were surprised and encouraged her to consider university. Her mom had recently been able to return to work, and my own salary had gone up since becoming a supervisor. Robert also said he was going to work after high school at first, but he changed his mind and went to college. So maybe you. I tried to say she should go too, but Natalie cut me off. It's not the same as it was with my brother. I don't have an education insurance policy. Her father had intended to take one out for her, but he fell ill before he could, and it never happened. It's not like I blame Dad. I understand what happened, but it's been nearly 10 years now that you've been supporting us, Kenny. I can't let you keep doing that. I don't see any of this as a burden. Knowing I'm helping you and your mom, that's what motivates me to work hard. Honestly, I should be the one thanking you. Despite our best efforts to convince her, Natalie wouldn't budge. Besides, she said, there's a company I really want to work for. The brochure she showed us was from Heritage Cross. What? My company? Yeah, I think Heritage Cross's wallpapers are beautiful. I want to work there. I feel safe knowing you're there too. And they hire high school grads. Seeing how excited she was, I couldn't argue any further. Natalie had done well in high school and was officially hired by Heritage Cross. I requested to be placed in the sales department. I'm going to work hard and make tons of money just like you, Kenny. She sounded so strong and determined. I realized then that she wasn't a child who needed protecting anymore, and I felt a little lonely. Still, she was just a first-year employee, a total rookie. Then you're under me now. I'll train you well. Natalie chuckled. Go easy on me, okay? The entrance ceremony. Dressed in a brand new suit, Natalie looked more radiant than any other new hire. I knew I was biased, but I couldn't take my eyes off her. She was placed in the sales department, just as she'd hoped. At first, her work focused on supporting senior members of the team, but with her grit and attention to detail, Natalie quickly became a beloved presence in the department. About 6 months after she joined, Noah, a seasoned employee, announced he would be resigning. He had to return to his hometown due to family circumstances. He had been in charge of a client called Deep Valley, a renovation company. A major project was underway with them, so losing Noah was a real blow, but family comes first. I asked Noah who he thought should take over his account. He named Natalie. Natalie? She's only been here 6 months. She's got the drive to make up for the lack of experience. And I'm not saying this because she's your sister. This is about her own ability. We'd kept our relationship a secret at first. There was nothing improper about it, but Natalie didn't want others thinking she was being favored. But when she brought in her first contract, she got so excited, she blurted out, I did it, Kenny. And the whole sales team figured it out. But no one reacted negatively. Everyone was supportive, saying things like, you two are so close, it's sweet, or Natalie's talent clearly runs in the family. I accepted Noah's recommendation and assigned Natalie to take over the Deep Valley account. Since it was a large contract, I checked with our president, Mr. Morris, who readily approved. Noah passed everything on to Natalie. Around the same time, Deep Valley also changed representatives, so Noah and Natalie arranged a meeting to introduce themselves. That day, I grew concerned when Noah didn't show up to the office, and then we got a call. The train he had been on was involved in an accident, and he was trapped inside the carriage. Fortunately, he wasn't injured, but it was clear he wouldn't make it in time for the meeting. Well, looks like I'll have to go to the meeting too, I said. But Natalie shook her head firmly. No, Kenneth, you've got a meeting later, right? I'll go alone. I hesitated to send her alone to such an important first client, but there was no one else available. I'll be fine. You're such a worrywart, Kenny. Natalie's words made the other team members chuckle quietly. Besides, all I have to do today is introduce myself and drop off some documents. With that, Natalie left for Deep Valley. But she came back in less than an hour. Considering the round-trip travel time, she couldn't have been at Deep Valley for even 10 minutes. What happened? The only explanation I could think of was that their representative had also been caught in the same train accident as Noah and hadn't made it in. But Natalie was biting her lip, fighting back tears. Avoiding attention, I took her into a conference room. Once we were alone, she began to speak, the words pouring out like a dam had burst. The new contact at Deep Valley. It was Stephen. Stephen? That Stephen? It was the same Stephen who had relentlessly harassed Natalie back in the tennis club. According to her, the moment she walked into the room, Stephen said, "Natalie, I've been waiting for you." Apparently, he already knew she had been assigned to the account. Even so, Natalie remained professional and introduced herself again as the new representative. "You didn't go to college, huh? I didn't think you were that poor. What a fool. If you had just been my girlfriend, you could have lived in luxury. I've never once wished for a life of idleness," Natalie said firmly. Stephen sneered, clearly irritated. "Your last guy, Noah, was it? He was ancient, and now they send in some high school grad? Is your company trying to insult Deep Valley, or what? We would never intend such a thing. Noah was a highly capable and experienced employee. I'm still new, so if you're dissatisfied, I'll return to the office and ask my supervisor to assign someone else." Natalie said this and bowed her head, but in that moment, something cold was poured over it. Startled, she looked up to see Stephen grinning at her. In his hand was a plastic bottle of tea. Stephen had dumped it over Natalie's head. "I'm more than dissatisfied. High school grads have no business being here. Go back and send someone competent." Without waiting for a response, Stephen left the room. "He's probably still holding a grudge from high school," Natalie said, doing her best to stay composed. Her hair was still damp from the tea. "Yeah, maybe his grudge is more against me than you. He probably still resented being humiliated back in that college cafeteria. Now, with a major contract on the line, he must have seen this as the perfect opportunity for revenge." "I'm sorry, Kenny. It's all my fault," Natalie whispered, a single tear slipping down her cheek, despite how hard she was trying to hold it together. "It's not your fault. Don't worry, I'll take care of it. Leave it to me." I told Natalie to wash her hair and wait in the sales department, then headed straight to the president's office. I told Mr. Morris everything that had happened. I also explained how Stephen had harassed Natalie when she was in high school. Mr. Morris nodded slowly. "Deep Valley is a family-run company. The president, Mr. Howard, and all the executives are relatives. This new assignment was probably arranged through one of their family connections. Whether it's petty revenge or leftover feelings for Natalie, I can't say. Whatever the reason, it was unacceptable." "Understood. I'm putting you in charge of this case. Handle it however you see fit." "Thank you, sir." Before I left, Mr. Morris also gave me some crucial information about Deep Valley. Grateful for his trust, I returned to the sales department. Back at my desk, I made 2 phone calls. First, to Deep Valley. "Yes, that's correct. Given the behavior toward our employee, we cannot proceed with any contract involving that individual. Yes, that includes the $65 million deal. Please consider the agreement void." When I hung up, I realized everyone in the department, Natalie included, was staring at me with concern. "Kenneth, did you say void? We'll talk in a bit. I still have one more call to make." And then I dialed the next number. The call was answered immediately. "This is Kenneth. Thank you for your time. Due to certain circumstances, we've decided to void our contract with Deep Valley." "Yes, I'll explain in detail later." As soon as I hung up, Natalie asked, "Who did you just call?" "That's a secret," I said with a wink. "But are you sure it's okay? I mean, that was a huge contract you just canceled." "It's fine. I told you to leave it to me, didn't I? This will be resolved by the end of today, tomorrow at the latest." Natalie and the rest of the team looked confused. Noah, who had finally managed to make it in, looked at me with concern, but I was confident in what I was doing. And then, my earlier prediction proved accurate. By that evening, 2 people from Deep Valley arrived, their department head, Ryan, and Stephen. We had them shown to a meeting room, and Natalie and I headed there. Natalie went in first, and Stephen gave her a smug, unpleasant smile. But when I entered right after her, his expression changed completely. "You!" Stephen pointed at me in shock, and Ryan quickly scolded him. Don't be rude. He's the sales supervisor. Incidentally, Ryan's last name was also Howard. Just as Mr. Morris had said, Deep Valley was clearly a family-run company. You're a supervisor, but you're Natalie's brother. Not by blood. More like her big brother in life. What does that even mean? You idiot. Ryan's patience snapped at Stephen's arrogance. Have you forgotten why we came here? We're here to apologize to their representative. Then Ryan turned to Natalie and bowed. I sincerely apologize for the deeply inappropriate behavior Stephen showed you. But Stephen said nothing, sulking. Stephen. Only after being shouted at did he reluctantly bow his head. Sorry. You don't sound very sorry. Ryan urged him again to apologize properly, but Stephen just kept grinning like a fool. Ryan, you don't need to grovel like this. They're threatening to cancel the contract, sure, but it's not like we'll be the ones in trouble. Heritage Cross is the one who'll lose out. There are plenty of wallpaper companies out there. This particular contract involved 3 companies, ours, Deep Valley, and Japan's largest hotel chain Lunaris Hotel. Lunaris had drawn up a plan to renovate a few rooms in each of its hotels into a modern Japanese style to accommodate the growing number of foreign tourists. Deep Valley was overseeing the renovations. We were contracted to supply Deep Valley with wallpaper, curtains, and other materials. And even though it was only a few rooms per hotel, Lunaris is the largest hotel chain in Japan, making the total project worth $65 million. That's probably why Stephen was acting so high and mighty. You clearly don't get it. If the contract between Heritage Cross and us is voided, our contract with Lunaris Hotel gets canceled too. What? Why would that happen? Just then, the receptionist announced another visitor. Let them in. At that, Stephen frowned. We're not done here. That's rude. She's very much involved in this conversation. The door opened, and in walked a woman. Emma! Ryan let out a gasp of surprise, but Stephen looked completely clueless. That's Emma, the lead project manager from Lunaris Hotel. She's in charge of this entire initiative. The woman was indeed Emma from Lunaris Hotel. She was 4 years older, 36, but widely known for being exceptionally capable. Stephen looked genuinely stunned. He fumbled to take out his business card and attempted to introduce himself. There's no need for a business card, she said coldly. There will be no further contact between us. Stephen froze like a statue, unable to say anything. Pouring tea on a business partner is absolutely unacceptable, and there's no way someone like that should be in charge of anything, especially since we only reached out to Deep Valley because we wanted to use Heritage Cross's wallpaper in the first place. Actually, our president, Mr. Morris, has also been concerned about Deep Valley's declining business and had already begun reaching out to other companies about changing partners. At that, Emma gave a cheerful smile. In that case, how about Oak Ridge Home? We've worked with them before. Oak Ridge Home? That's a great choice. They were one of our candidates. As we discussed new options, Ryan suddenly turned and yelled at Stephen. Stephen, do you understand what you've done? You just voided a $65 million contract. Stephen finally seemed to grasp the situation and suddenly dropped to his knees, bowing deeply at Emma's and my feet. I'm so sorry. I deeply apologize for what I've done. Please don't cancel the contract. He pressed his forehead to the floor. Emma looked down at him coldly. Are you sure you're apologizing to the right person? Stephen froze, then scrambled over to Natalie. Natalie, I was terribly rude to you earlier. I'm so sorry. Please forgive me. I turned down your advances back in high school, but that doesn't mean you had any right to pour tea over my head today, and I believe that, not just as a professional, but as a human being, it was an utterly disgraceful thing to do. Stephen had no response. He just stayed hunched over, forehead pressed to the floor. As a representative of Heritage Cross, I cannot do business with a company that employs someone so untrustworthy. Kenneth, are we on the same page? Absolutely. Please show them out. Ryan, realizing the situation was beyond saving, reluctantly dragged a protesting Stephen out of the room. Once the three of us were alone, Emma took Natalie's hand. "So, you're Natalie. You've grown into a fine young woman." Natalie looked confused, so I explained. Emma used to be Robert's supervisor. Robert had worked for Lunaris Hotel. Robert had worked part-time at Lunaris Hotel since his college days. It was Emma who, impressed by his dedication, encouraged him to join the company full-time. Robert was incredibly sincere and attentive to detail. I thought he was perfect for the hospitality industry, and I truly believed he would become an essential part of Lunaris Hotel's future. Emma's eyes filled with tears at the memory. "I heard so much about you from Robert and of course about his best friend Kenneth. You gave Heritage Cross the contract because Kenny works here, didn't you?" Natalie asked. "No, it was just a coincidence. Our company had always been known for its strength in traditional Japanese designs. We had a wide range of wallpaper and curtains with Japanese patterns. So Lunaris Hotel had approached us directly before even choosing a renovation company. I was surprised to learn that the sales supervisor was Robert's best friend, but it made me think, maybe it was Robert from heaven who brought us together." "That sounds exactly like something my brother would do," Natalie said, her eyes brimming with tears. "Yeah, it's thanks to Robert." I had the feeling that Robert was watching the three of us from above, smiling down from the sky. After that, I heard that Stephen had been transferred to a rural branch. Normally, what he did would have been enough to get him fired, but he was likely spared thanks to his family connections. However, after the termination of the contract with Lunaris Hotel, Deep Valley's business declined even further. Their personnel practices had always been criticized, promoting people like Stephen, who had no real ability, simply because they were part of the family. Disgusted by the company's structure, many capable employees who weren't part of the family began to quit one after another. Even then, Deep Valley refused to change its management style, and the company's decline only accelerated. And then came the termination of the Lunaris Hotel contract. Crippled by the blow, Deep Valley soon went bankrupt. The Howard family scattered, and no one seems to know where any of them ended up. There were even rumors that Stephen had been seen living as a homeless man in a park in Tokyo, but it was just that a rumor, and I have no way of knowing if it's true. The Lunaris Hotel project went ahead smoothly with Oak Ridge Home on board. Natalie played a major role, and after several years, the project was successfully completed. And today, I'm at the wedding hall inside Lunaris Hotel. Natalie is getting married. Her partner is a young employee from our sales department. He's a serious guy with a bright personality and solid skills, so I feel confident in trusting Natalie to him. When the wedding was decided, Natalie said to me, "Kenny, will you walk with me down the aisle?" I wondered if I was the right person for that role, but she said, "If Robert were alive, he would have walked with me, right? You promised to take his place, didn't you?" Once she said that, there was no way I could refuse. A little embarrassed, I accepted. And so I walked down the aisle alongside Natalie. Dressed in a pure white wedding gown, she looked more beautiful than I had ever seen her. It was the most nervous I'd ever been in my life, but I managed to fulfill my role. Then came the bouquet toss. Here it goes. Natalie tossed the bouquet, and to everyone's surprise, Emma caught it. Natalie once said, "It's hard to believe someone that wonderful is still single," and casually asked Emma about it at some point. To which Emma replied, "I was so caught up in my work that before I knew it, I'd reached this age." Emma, who had caught the bouquet, looked half happy and half unsure, but when Natalie walked over and whispered something to her, she let out a soft, gentle laugh. When I asked later what she had whispered, both Natalie and Emma just said, "That's a secret." After the reception ended, and I saw the newlyweds off on their honeymoon, I looked up at the sky. White clouds floated in the clear blue above. I wondered if Robert was up there, watching us from the clouds. Maybe my role as Natalie's big brother has come to an end, so I can't let my guard down just yet. He seems like a good guy, but if he ever makes her cry, I'll make sure to knock some sense into him." I said those words, looking up toward heaven, and then I heard Robert's voice. "Thank you, Kenneth. From now on, start thinking about your own happiness too. I believe it wasn't just my imagination. I believe it was really him."